Hey guys, Michael J. Crawford, the Anti-Trekker here. Yesterday's Enterprise is considered by many to be one of the best episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. This episode takes place almost entirely in an alternate timeline created by the USS Enterprise C, coming forward in time some 22 years.
Mr. Data, scanning sensors. Lieutenant, what are their sensor readings?
In this new timeline, the Klingons and the Federation have been at war for about 20 years. The Federation is losing badly and near total defeat. This episode becomes a race against the clock to get the Enterprise C back to the past to prevent this terrible war from ever happening. From what we know, 22 years prior to this episode, the Enterprise C responded to a distress call from the Klingons at an outpost at Narendra 3. When the Enterprise arrived, they found that the outpost was under attack by 4 Romulan warbirds. The Romulans opened fire on the Enterprise, and somehow a rift in time and space opened, pulling the Enterprise 22 years into the future. The Klingons started a war with the Federation shortly after the attack on Narendra 3. There was no historical record of the Enterprise being involved. In this altered timeline, Starfleet was in full wartime mode, some of which made perfect sense. A more formal chain of command, higher discipline, sidearms being standard issue. However, some of it, just didn't make a lot of sense.
Military log, combat date 43625.2. While investigating an unusual radiation anomaly, the Enterprise has encountered what could almost be called a ghost from its own past. The Enterprise C, the immediate predecessor to this battleship.
Look, I have no problem with calling the Enterprise a battleship, considering that it was designed as a troop transport rather than a family-friendly research vessel. But to change the captain's log to a military log and the star date to combat date is a bit much. It's not like during the Dominion War, Cisco stopped recording captain's logs in favor of military logs, and the stardate system was replaced by combat dates. I get that they're trying to show how everything is different, but remember, 22 years ago, the timelines were the same. And for at least 70 years prior to that, it was captain's log and stardate, so there's no need to change that part anyway. While the crews of both ships attempt to make repairs on the Enterprise C, a lone Klingon bird of prey attacks and quickly retreats under cloak. So this shows the first major flaw in the Federation tactics, and why, in fact, I think that the Federation is losing this war. They are not fighting to win. They're fighting to survive. A lone bird of prey is no match for the Enterprise, let alone the Enterprise with backup. Yet the bird of prey managed to escape. Why? Because they were not trying to destroy it, they were simply trying to warn the ship off. In a time of war, this is a tactical mistake that could cost lives. This bird of prey was allowed to leave knowing the location of the two ships. Later, we will see that the Klingon ships are no match for a sustained attack from Federation phasers. And yet, they only use this tactic once. Oh, and just as a quick aside, I know that some people insist that since the Klingon ships in this episode are referred to as battle cruisers, they're not birds of prey.
Report.
1 Klingon bird of prey off the starboard bow.
Anyway, let's look at this first encounter. We have 2 Federation starships versus 1 Cavort-class battlecruiser. We know that the Cavort is large for a bird of prey, but small in comparison to, say, a Galaxy-class ship, and can't withstand a sustained attack. The Klingon strategy is simple hit and run to do some damage to the weaker of the 2 Federation ships while their shields are down, and then pull a quick retreat. This does, however, put the Klingons directly in front of the Galaxy-class battleship, a very dangerous place to be. Had Picard simply fired all weapons in a sustained attack, the Cavort never would have reported the location of the ships, and the second battle never would have taken place. But this is the TNG era of Trek. The Federation was not used to the brutality of war, and instead wanted to go for the more enlightened path of not killing unless necessary. While, yes, this is indeed a truly more enlightened path, this would cost them dearly later on. The Klingons only did superficial damage to the Enterprise C. However, unfortunately, the captain was killed in the attack. The last surviving senior officer of the Enterprise C takes command and resumes her mission.
Military log supplemental. Lieutenant Tasha Yar has transferred to the Enterprise C, where she has taken over tactical duties. Meanwhile, our long-range scanners have picked up Klingon battle cruisers on an intercept course.
Picard gives an inspirational speech just as the Klingons attack.
Let's make sure history never forgets the name. Enterprise. Guard out.
At this point, we have a match of 3-on-2. The Klingons are still clearly outgunned. However, I would suspect that they have very little to fear of the Federation's superior weapons due to the fact that the Federation is extremely hesitant to use said weapons. While the Enterprise is taking something of a beating, Picard orders a single volley of photon torpedoes launched at the lead ship.
Photon torpedoes ready.
Dispersal pattern, Sierra. And fire.
Sir, one of the ships is breaking off and going towards the Enterprise C.
Mr. Crusher, keep us within 200 kilometers of the Enterprise C.
So now we can kind of see Picard's strategy. To keep the Klingons attacking the Enterprise D while the C escapes. However, I think this could have been done far more effectively by simply ordering a fire at will command at the beginning and allowing the Galaxy-class ship to unleash its full power on the Klingons. Not only would this have kept the Klingons focused on the Enterprise D, it likely would have taken out the Klingon ships based on what we see just a little bit later. At this point, the Enterprise D's warp core is on the brink of losing containment, and Picard issues the strangest order of the battle.
Continue fire all phases.
Not that it's a bad idea to fire all phasers, but he says to continue to fire all phasers like they've been firing this whole time, or that he ordered them to continue to fire or to fire all phasers in the past. He may have given that order at a time we could not see him, but it seems that the Enterprise was being very conservative with its weapons use up to this point. But now that we allow phasers to cut loose...
Continue fire all phases.
One enemy target destroyed, sir.
The warp core is about to breach. Many systems are offline. The bridge is literally on fire. Picard now makes his last stand, taking the controls of tactical himself.
Ship Enterprise, surrender and prepare to be boarded.
That will be the day.
As the Klingons close in for the kill, the Enterprise C makes it to the rift and the timeline is reset, with no one aware of what just happened.
Report, Lieutenant.
Jordy, tell me about Tasha Yar.
Well, almost no one. Look, I love this episode. In fact, I would give yesterday's Enterprise a 9 out of 10. But it does prove exactly what is wrong with the next generation attitude of Starfleet. They are so passive, so interested in only keeping the peace, that when faced with war, they would put a man with the heart of a poet and the soul of an explorer in command of the Federation's best warship. Despite having every advantage, if not for the fact that the timeline was reset at the last minute, Picard would pull defeat from the jaws of victory. Take care.
You son of a bitch, anti-tracker!